This is the first prediction video I've done in which my hometown team is not qualified for the postseason, so don't expect me to go insane over one of our participants all over again. But still, do expect me to shit on the American League where the parity has been missing for the last year and a half. Case in point, the Boston Red Sox, the first team across the entire league to amass 100 wins. You may remember that last year they had won back-to-back AL East titles for the first time in franchise history. That means after failing to repeat for 115 years, they've now won their division the last 3 years straight. They certainly didn't give a hell about all the noise that the New York Yankees made this offseason, even if it helped them at least secure the first wildcard spot. Again. Never have I wanted huge free agent signings to blow up in a team's face. Sure enough, the big bullies of the Bronx did not come close to getting what they paid for. What they got instead was a strikeout machine and an easy target for Bronx cheers. Literal Bronx cheers. He and number 99 turned out to be Bronx Bombers, which just might give the Oakland Athletics a fighting chance. Ladies and germs, the A's are your surprise playoff team of the year. Or maybe it was no surprise. Clearly they scored enough runs to compete with the big guys, although they have struggled a little when going up against the big guys. The biggest exception, of course, came from Sean Manaea when he threw that no-hitter against the surging Red Sox. To my surprise for sure, this was a sign of bigger things to come, but now they're in for the biggest test in 4 years. For now, the Houston Astros roll into the playoffs with by far the biggest run differential out of any team, continuing their winning ways a full year after clinching their first World Series title. The defending world champions of baseball are even more loaded now with their recent acquisition of Gerrit Cole and, well, they're in the strongest position of any team in a long time to repeat. But yay, a familiar challenger refuses to let the Stros take that destiny. The Cleveland Indians. This year's a little different for the Wahoos, as contrary to their utter dominance over the last 2 seasons, this year they are the heavy underdogs of the American League, having sneaked into the postseason with yet another AL Central crown, no thanks to all their division rivals turning into pumpkins, and they may or may not have been given an easy schedule. Even then, Cleveland fans have a reason to be concerned. They have a less than .500 record against above-average teams, and they've only played 60 such games. Given their historic underachieving, can they possibly be projected to make a run for the hills this year? I don't know, but baseball is weird. National League time. I live for this. Also, this is where it gets interesting, since there was a lot more competition in the senior circuit, but ultimately coming on top this time around were the the Milwaukee Brewers. It was a long time coming, and it took a chaotic game 163 to get there, but the Brewers toppled the former NL Central champs to clinch the best record in the National League, in the process earning the right to #FlyTheL, a teasing reference to the losers of that game 163, the Chicago Cubs. Do not pass go, do not #FlyTheW. At least not yet. The Cubs had actually held a small lead on the division for nearly the whole season until they pulled a Brewers of their own and coughed it up at the last second, ironically to the Brewers. I said last year that the Cubs have a deep enough roster to be in fine contention for another World Series championship, but even with holding the second best record in the league, first they have to deal with this fandangled wildcard game. Their equally unworthy opponent, the Colorado Rockies. I'd say their 2018 campaign was an improvement on last year when they wasted a fiery offense with lackluster pitching. This year, their rotation led them so close to clinching their first NL West crown ever until they ran into the Los Angeles Dodgers. Too bad. The Dodgers are champions of the National League West. Bleh. Clayton Kershaw, Jock Peterson, Justin Turner, Kike Hernandez. Those are some of the same boogeymen you remember from their epic World Series push last year. But what do you know? They didn't spend another $1 billion this year, so you can bet a few new stars will get the chance to show what they've got as they fend off the Atlanta Braves. What a difference 3 years makes. But then again, I have seen stranger things. Lucky, not that great against the better teams. Another example of playing on a piss-weak division, and I only recognize 5 players on the Braves. None of them are pitchers. Awkward. So this is what your postseason field looks like in 2018, and already I have a feeling I'll be turning a few heads as I go down this rabbit hole. But before I begin, I'd like to share with you a bold prediction I had made in mid-May when the Red Sox were really rolling in Indians-like fashion, and Josh Hader of the Brewers was touchable. I predicted that the Brewers would make their long-awaited return to the promised land, only to lose a hard-fought 6-game series to the Red Sox. While writing the script up to this point, I wasn't able to commence my series of blatant jinxes because there were still 6 games to be played. I have to say, at this point, the Red Sox Brewers indeed seems like a bold move that only an idiot such as I would have made. But now, at the end of the season, does this early hypothesis hold up? Or if I abandon all pretense and taken the obvious route? You know what, just skip to the last minute of this video. Everything in between here and the Fall Classic is bullshit anyway. Ready? Go. This year, it's the National League's turn to kick off the postseason with their wildcard game pitting the losers of that game 163 madness, the Rockies and the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Right away, the Cubs sacrifice experience for the next round by tapping the left-handed yipster John Lester to face off against Kyle Freeland, the 25-year-old in his second year. First things first, I get that anything can happen in one game, and it may be unfair for the team with the second best record in the league to have to do another one-game playoff, but the facts are that the Rockies were hot in September, the Cubs let the division title slip, and John Lester. Well, I wouldn't trust him in a do-or-die situation like this. Imagine if they still had Jake Arrieta. The Rockies come into Wrigley and steamrolled the Cubs into an early playoff exit to atone for their own early playoff exit last year. Bigger things are soon to come for Denver. Then after the madness and the senior circuit is settled, the A's invade the house that Jeter built for their own one-game duel versus the Yankees for the right to go up against the most powerful AL team later on. At the moment I'm writing this, the Yanks haven't named their starting pitcher yet, but if there's one thing I've learned from last year, with the Yankees, that doesn't really matter. Liam Hendricks might be able to stifle the Bronx Bombers for an inning or two, but give him enough time and they'll catch up with you. They'll find their ways to beat you, they will live up to their name, and they will leave the Oakland fans heartbroken all over again. At least they have the Warriors? The National League Division Series begins with the somewhat surging Rockies taking on the even more surging Brewers. At this point, the Brewers have won their last 8 games straight, although the Rockies were on a hot streak of their own until the last 3 games of the season. The Brewers' rotation hasn't collected a lot of quality starts, but they've been a little more consistent in allowing fewer runs. That will make the difference as they channel their home field advantage to win games 1 and 2. The Rocks find a way to bounce back at their home field in Game 3, but Christian Yelich and the Brew Crew will prove too much for the opposing pitching staff as Josh Haderade shuts the door at Coors like he has been all season long. I f***ing love this guy. Come on, he struck out every ready face in 3 innings of work. The Brewers have some bona fide magic going for them. But they'll have to wait a few days as the Braves and Dodgers take care of business. With Yu Darvish gone, Clayton Kershaw can go back to doing Clayton Kershaw things. Or he can suddenly remember how to pitch and shut down Atlanta. I don't think anyone's going to notice. I remember naively thinking the Braves were a formidable dynasty in 2013 and that it would be a miracle if the Dodgers could get rid of them. They did. It was the beginning of an actual dynasty in Los Angeles, and dynasty will continue to prevail over destiny as the Dodgers quickly sends Atlanta packing. Well, the Braves get some sympathy. This is likely a fluke season for them, and they stole a game in LA. How is it that they've only won 3 World Series based in 3 different cities? They should have won a 9-1 at the very least. The American League Division Series features a timeless rivalry like no other. The New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox. On paper, this is a nice even matchup. Too bad they had no chance of squaring off in the ALCS this year. These guys are only a few run wins apart, they've got similar run differentials, they perform well regardless if at home or on the road, and they also perform well against the big guys. The only difference I see is that the Yankees are hot. The Red Sox had that extra day of rest, but that might have made them rusty, especially given their flaming start of the year followed by slowing it down a bit. Not to mention the Yankees took 4 of their last 6 matchups in September, and historically the Red Sox can have no nice things at the hands of those damn Bronx bullies. The Yankees will show no mercy as they aggressively sweep the Red Sox. So no, Boston, you will not be celebrating your 4th World Series championship in 15 years. My last hope is that this ends up jinxing the Yankees. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Indians make the long trek to Houston to play the Astros, or rather pretend to play the Astros. Either the Indians learned nothing from their past failures, or they were enticed to play down to everyone else in their division as they whimpered helplessly all season long, or they drew the shortest straw and were forced to play the reigning World Series champs. Either way, this is my easiest prediction of the playoffs. The Indians might make life incredibly difficult for the Stros, but their red-hot offense will prove just too much for the Cleveland pitching core. Easy 4-game series win for Houston. Again. The Dodgers travel to Milwaukee to play the Brewers in their first postseason matchup. How are their fans liking this now? First, Clayton Kershaw continues to pitch like a god, only for Kenley Jansen to blow it and allow Milwaukee to take game 1 at home. Then Hyunjin Ryu pitches like a god, only for Nope, he remembers how to pitch this time. He's learned his lesson. After the long trek to Los Angeles, Christian Yelich chooses Game 3 to hit 3 home runs and give either Chase Anderson or Gio Gonzalez more than enough run support to shut down the Dodgers' bats. Game 4 will be a hotly contested offensive struggle as Ryan Braun and Yasiel Puig trade 2 home run games, but it'll be best remembered for a bench-clearing brawl that started after someone got the stupid idea to bean the next guy. Oh boy, that's a few bucks. But then the Brewers recover in time to pull away and take a commanding 3-1 series lead. Needing a win to force the trek back to Milwaukee, Clayton Kershaw continues to dazzle at the mound, this time earning run support such that Kenley Jansen can't possibly blow it. He doesn't. Back in Milwaukee, Buehler actually shows up and outpitches either Gio Gonzalez or Chase Anderson to knot the series back up at 3 games apiece. Oh boy, everything on the line for Rich Hill and Kike Hernandez? No, how about Wade Miley? Maybe Zach Davies? Or just let Josh Haderade pitch for days? I don't know, the Dodgers are still the Dodgers, but Milwaukee has a considerably more dominant bullpen. I know what I want to predict, but let's see what MLB The Show 18 has to say about that.
Lifted in the air out to right. Yelich is there. He makes the catch. Next stop, the World Series.
Ouch. Stuffed in the final game, and worst of all, it's not even at the hands of Haderade. Huh. Now, what happens when the Yankees and Astros meet in the ALCS for the 2nd year in a row? Well, it seems in all likelihood that Justin Verlander will be called to get the series going versus Luis Severino. Yeah, they'll both be fresh enough from having to wait after clinching so early. The Astros' surging offense looks roughly the same this year as they did last year, and will be put on display once again as they beat up on Severino to take Game 1. Then Tanaka will get the call for Game 2 and somehow stifle the competition en route to a narrow Yankees victory. Over in the Bronx, the Yankees hitting core will put on a clinic as their bats destroy any confidence Jared Cole may have had following his prior performance against those pesky Indians. Charlie Morton becomes the team savior as he pitches the lights out enough to allow the massive run support he'll get in Game 4 to pull the Stros out of a really bad spot. But because baseball is weird, AJ Hinch will tap back into Justin Verlander for Game 5, and because baseball is weird, he'll lose his mojo and allow the Yankees to hit Bronx bombs for days. With their season on the line and their backs against the wall once more, can Dallas Keuchel keep his cool and force another Game 7 with the American League pennant on the line? The short answer is yes. The long answer is the Yankees will blow an 8th inning lead for once and allow the Stros bats to come alive against the Yankees bullpen that isn't nearly as reliable this year as it was last year. And then Houston rides that red-hot offense to quickly chase CC Sabathia out of town and give the Yankees no chance to recover. I just think the Houston Astros are too good right now. They are probably the most complete team in all of Major League Baseball, and even with everything to lose, they still find every way possible to bounce back at the face of adversity, and as such, they are still 100% the team to beat in the American League. It's all come down to the Fall Classic. Everything is on the line between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Houston Astros. At this point, the Astros are playing with house money. They're the ones with everything on the line. Do they defend the World Series title and win back-to-back for all of Texas, or do the Brewers shock the world? Actually, both teams have already shocked the world enough by getting to this point. They actually competed in the opposite leagues in the past. If this were 25 years ago, it'd have been the Brewers for the American League and the Astros in the National League. What kind of parallel universe are we living in? How do you just move leagues like that? I've heard of teams f***ing off to different series, but this would be like Splatoon getting bought by Microsoft and becoming an Xbox exclusive. And I don't have an Xbox! Remember when the Brewers and Astros were division rivals? Those are fun times. Yeah, not really. It's a shame that both teams couldn't have been good at the same time in that era, otherwise we might have seen some exciting NLCS series between the two. But no, of course they choose now to both make the World Series. But I suppose meeting at the grandest stage of baseball works too. How have there also been no Twins-Brewers playoff series? Can we see that in 2019, please? Oh, did I forget to mention? The Astros will repeat as world champs of baseball, taking down the Brewers in 6 games as Justin Verlander gets World Series MVP honors for pitching yet another no-hitter in Game 1. Oh my god, he's so good right now, he's a shoo-in for the Baseball Hall of Fame when he becomes eligible. But above all, he'll be best remembered for one thing and one thing only. Being former teammates with the guy who was adamant about emptying his fun box. And with that said, subscribe to my channel for more of these prediction videos because you already know I'll be back next year to do this all over again. Make sure to hit that like button if you like this video and share because you want people to hear my cheesy voice. Thank you for watching and I'll see you for my next prediction video. And by the way, Joe Buck is awesome. The Rockies come into Wrigley and steamroll the Cubs into an early playoff exit to atone for their own early playoff exit next. The Rockies come into Wrigley and steamroll the Cubs into an early playoff exit to atone for their... At the moment I'm writing this, the Yankees haven't named their starting pitcher, but if there's one thing I've learned from last year, well... At the moment I'm writing this, the Yankees haven't yet named their starting pitcher, but if there's one thing I have learned from last year... What the f... Why did I write yeet instead of year? What kind of drug was I on? Then Tanaka will get the call for Game 2 and somehow stifle the competition en route to a narrow Yankees victory. I remember naively thinking the Braves were a formidable dynasty in 2013, and that would be a miracle if the... I remember naively thinking the Braves were a formidable dynasty in 2013, and that it would be a miracle if the Dodgers get rid of... I remember naively thinking the Braves were a formidable dynasty in 2013 and that the Dodgers... I remember naively thinking the Braves were a formidable dynasty in 2013 and that it would be a miracle if the...